The wind howled across the cold waters of the North Sea as hundreds of longships cut through the grey waves. Their dragon-headed prows rose and fell like sea monsters in the storm. At the center of the fleet stood a young king, barely in his 20s, staring toward the distant shores of England. His name was Cnut the Great. In just a few years, he would build one of the most powerful empires in medieval Europe, an empire that stretched across the North Sea itself. England, Denmark, Norway, and parts of Sweden would all bow to a single ruler. But empires built on conquest rarely last forever. To understand this extraordinary empire, we must travel back to the violent world of the Viking Age. From the icy fjords of Denmark and Norway, Viking fleets sailed south and west, raiding and conquering across Europe. England became one of their most valuable targets. Wealthy monasteries, rich farmland, and divided kingdoms made it vulnerable. One of those kings was Æthelred the Unready. His reign was marked by constant Viking invasions and political instability. Desperate to protect his kingdom, he paid enormous sums of silver to Viking leaders in what became known as the Danegeld. Among the Viking rulers watching England closely was the ambitious Danish king Sweyn Forkbeard. In 1013, he launched a massive invasion. City after city fell. Eventually, even London submitted, and Sweyn became the king of England. But fate intervened. Sweyn died suddenly, and his empire collapsed almost overnight. The English nobles invited Æthelred back, yet Sweyn had a son young, determined, and far more dangerous than his father. Cnut returned to Scandinavia to gather warriors. In 1015, he launched another invasion. This time, he intended not just to raid, but to rule. At the center of the resistance stood Edmund Ironside, the son of Æthelred. Edmund was a fierce warrior who refused to surrender. The two young kings clashed across England in a series of bloody battles. Villages burned, armies marched through muddy fields. The decisive moment came in 1016 at the Battle of Asandin. This was the turning point that would change history. The battle was fierce and chaotic. Axes crashed against shields. Spears pierced armor. War cries echoed across the fields. For hours, neither side gained an advantage. But then betrayal changed everything. Edric Striana suddenly withdrew his troops. The English lines collapsed. Cnut's warriors surged forward with terrifying force. By the end of the day, the field was covered with the fallen. Edmund Ironside was forced to negotiate. England would be divided. Edmund would rule the south, while Cnut controlled the north. But the arrangement lasted only weeks. Soon after, Edmund died, possibly from illness. Though rumors of assassination spread, Cnut became the undisputed king of England. Instead of ruling as a conqueror, he carefully built alliances. He married Emma of Normandy, the widow of Æthelred, strengthening his claim to the throne. Gradually, he transformed himself from Viking invader into a legitimate Christian king. But his ambitions stretched far beyond England. In 1018, he secured Denmark. A few years later, he turned his attention to Norway, ruled by King Olaf II. By 1028, Cnut sailed into Norway with a massive fleet. Many Norwegian nobles switched sides. accepting him as their ruler, with Norway under his control. Cnut now ruled an empire unlike anything Northern Europe had seen. The North Sea Empire, Cnut, ruled wisely, traveling between his kingdoms. He even made a pilgrimage to Rome, presenting himself as a peer to European monarchs. Yet the empire had one hidden weakness. It depended almost entirely on one man, Cnut the Great. When he died in 1035, the delicate balance holding the empire together began to unravel. His sons struggled to maintain control. Norway broke free. England grew restless. Then, in 1042, the death of Æthelred ended the North Sea Empire effectively. The English throne returned to the Anglo-Saxon line. In just a few decades, the vast empire built by Cnut had completely disappeared. What remained was its legacy. It connected Scandinavian kingdoms, with England expanding trade and mixing cultures. For a brief moment, the North Sea itself was the center of a kingdom. Like the tide retreating, the empire faded back into history. If you want to uncover more forgotten empires and stories that changed the course of civilization, subscribe to join our journey through history.